Welcome back to another episode of the 2Ballers podcast. Me and Hunter are back after our long awaited return. And we have a special guest with us today. Special guest, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
I am Neil Everett. I worked at ESPN for 23 years. I met Kellen at the Heisman Trophy celebration. He told me about 2Ballers podcast, and I said, I got to be on that, man. I want to be a baller too with the 2Ballers. So we hooked up Hunter and Kellen. We're having little technical difficulties, but I think we're going to be able to pull it off. Why are we going to be able to pull it off? Because they're ballers. That's why.
Absolutely.
He knows ball. And speaking of ball, the national championship between UConn and Michigan. Michigan came out on top 69-63. I'm gonna start off. What are your guys' thoughts on the game? And we're gonna start there.
All right, Hunter, I'll take it first. I'm going to be honest, I had one eye on the national championship game, but I was also working a Portland Trailblazer game. So I worked part time for the Trailblazers, and we had the Denver Nuggets lost in overtime. Heck of a game. But as I'm watching the first half of that game, and Michigan can't throw it in the ocean standing on the beach. I mean, they were 2 for 15 from three in the first half. And I really thought that was UConn's chance to establish themselves, but they just weren't able to get into a rhythm. Michigan's defense because of that, and they didn't have the interior play. The Reed kid could just not get anything up over the Spanish kid. And I was thinking about, and then I'm watching Donovan Clingan play for the Trailblazers, and I'm thinking, UConn needs Donovan Clingan in the middle for them to go up against the Spanish kid from Michigan. So I think Michigan felt good to be have a lead at the half. UConn was probably kicking itself for not taking advantage of Michigan's poor shooting. And then it got Michigan got the second half, there was right towards the end, about 2 minutes to go. I think it was a 6-point game. UConn had the ball and kind of missed a shot they should have made, would have made it a 4-point game. Michigan came down, hit the three, or I think they got an old-fashioned three, Cadell, and that was it. That was all she wrote. And I thought, no, it was McKinney. McKinney made the three, and I thought the unsung hero for Michigan was Mo Johnson. He had some real contributions when Cano was in foul trouble and when the big dude was hot and cold. So it would have been something had UConn won their third title in 4 years. That would have put Coach Hurley in really some select company. But all in all, from what I could see, it looked like a pretty good, pretty entertaining game.
Bro. Hunter?
Yeah, and to your point, Neil, I thought you talk about Michigan struggling to make shots. UConn also really struggled, particularly from three, and I think that was one of the things going into the game where if UConn was going to be able to win that game, they're going to have to be able to knock down some threes. And I mean, they got some really good looks throughout the entire game. And if you would have asked UConn, with the looks they got, I don't think they probably regretted most of the shots that they took. And they actually fairly executed their game plan very well to be able to hold that Michigan offense to 69 points, to make it kind of a grinded out type of game, a type of game that UConn is comfortable playing with. But also, you really just saw how versatile Michigan is, that they can win in many different ways. They can get you going up and down the court, and then just like last night, they were able to just wear UConn down and defensively use their length to their advantage and really contest UConn on the perimeter. And you saw how they were chasing the off ball screening action that UConn runs. They did a good job, especially limiting Terrace Reed, because he's a key part of the UConn offense. And when they can play inside out, it really makes them tough to guard. Um, but also, as it kind of got late, UConn had cut it, I think, to four with like 20 something seconds left. And I was like, is this about to be Duke all over again? I just thought you can never count out, the heart of a champion. And we saw that against Duke. And I think Caravan had a deep three that he missed that would have cut the lead to one, and it would have been interesting to see what would have transpired had he made that three. But give all the credit to Michigan and Dusty May. They played well enough, and kind of middle of that second half, they were able to kind of stretch that lead out, just a little bit past double digits, and that was kind of all that they needed, and really just showed that they were really the best team throughout the college basketball season.
Yeah, to y'all's point about their defense, as many turnovers as UConn had watching the game, I just realized Michigan's defense was really as good as I thought it was. I didn't have them going far in the tournament, but to my surprise, now they're national champions.
Yeah.
Their offense, Elliot Cadeau is a really, really good point guard. I really want to touch on Elliot Cadeau. The way he was able to facilitate, get into the lane, driving kick, shoot the ball, of course, too, and dish out assists. He's a really good point guard, and he's definitely most deserving to win the most outstanding player. I do want to touch on the actual Lindenberg because I know he was a big name coming into the tournament because he had a great regular season. Obviously, he had an injury coming into the game, and that kind of derailed him from having a big performance. But he still found ways to impact the game both offensively and defensively. Credit to Michigan and Dusty May and their national champions. How do y'all feel about like the entire tournament overall?
Well, my bracket was perfect because I fill it out after each game. So for the third or fourth year in a row, I've got a perfect bracket. I really thought Arizona was the team to beat, and Michigan just punched them right in the mouth. I mean, it was 10-1 and the game was over. Uh, but when Michigan beat Gonzaga by 40 early in the season, and I knew Gonzaga was pretty good. I'm like, whoa, Michigan's something else. And they've got a lot of athletes, and I love that the Landisberg kid is just, I don't know, there's something about him. He just looks like a dude. And I'm glad that he was able to go after hurting the knee in the Arizona game. And I think the best team won. They made their free throws. I think to your point, Hunter, if you told Connecticut before the game that the final score is going to be 69-63, Connecticut's going to say we win that game. If you say it's going to be 89-83, they're going to say we lost that game. So for Michigan to win a UConn friendly final score type of game speaks volumes for Michigan. I think they're able to adapt better than any team I saw this season.
Yeah,
That's real.
absolutely. And I kind of credit that to just, the Big Ten. I think between the Big Ten and the Big East, those are probably two of the most probably physical leagues in college basketball. And the Big Ten, they had to kind of grind some games out too, where it might not have been as low scoring, but at the end of the day, it came down to getting stops and keeping the opponent from scoring the ball. And so, Michigan has definitely played in these type of games before and come out on top. But also, I think for Michigan, what kind of I think really also kind of helped them in a sense was I think actually losing in the Big Ten tournament championship game to Purdue actually kind of helped them. I think it allowed them to kind of just reset a little bit. They had up until that point they had been kind of rolling through the Big Ten, and then they lose to Purdue. Purdue kind of got them pretty good in that Big Ten tournament championship game, and they were able to really just lock in. And you kind of saw that, especially I think defensively, did a good job throughout the tournament. Offensively, we saw throughout the tournament the many different ways they can score. Whether it was the three, it was getting inside the paint, throwing up the lob passes to the bigs. I think we saw the full offense that Michigan brings, and just defensively they locked in as they got further and further as they got in the tournament.
That's real. That's real. I'm gonna be real. I had Duke winning the tournament.
Well, I did
I
too.
had
So
I had Duke winning the tournament, but unfortunately, Braylon Mullins hit a game-winning three ball, um, which I did not expect at all for the way the game went down. And I'm gonna be real, for the past 10 years, they haven't made it back to the tournament. I mean, they've made it to the championship, but they haven't been able to win it. And it was heartbreaking to see that game winner go in. That put a hole in my heart.
I,
But
I I remember jumping up off the couch when that kid hit the three. I mean, like my body went someplace else. Like I jumped up and went, "Whoa!"
right,
That was something else. It would have been, a Duke Michigan final. That would have been a good game to see as well. That the big boozer kid is something else. The shorter one or the smaller one. He wished he had that last pass. That was just the gods were looking over UConn on that day and weren't looking over John Shire and the Blue Devils.
yeah, for sure. I remember, my reaction was I was speechless just watching it happen. Like for like a solid minute, like I couldn't even say any words. Like I was just like, I think still trying to process what happens, and then just seeing the replays over and over again. But my favorite shot of that whole thing is when they showed Bill Raftery and Grant Hill's reaction to to the shot, and just how silent they were. And Neil, I know you can speak to this just as someone who's in broadcasting. The fact that they allowed Iron Eagle to be able to call that moment and not say anything, when a lot of it, analysts would have wanted to have a reaction, but they were just so shocked and that they couldn't even say anything. And just hearing Iron Eagle's voice over that historic shot is something that is going to live down forever in college basketball. That moment, the reaction, it's kind of one of those shots. I think we're going to look back at it and we're going to be talking about, like, where were you when Braylon Mullins hit that shot uh, to beat Duke to go to the Final Four. I think it is like one of those type of moments. I think especially for me and Kellen, our generation, because like we haven't had too many of those moments. I mean, you think about Chris Jenkins when he hit the shot against North Carolina to win the championship. Jalen Suggs to beat UCLA to go to the championship game. And so I think to be able to have that moment, uh, which is also just pretty cool to see, and just the reactions from everyone in the arena, and I know everyone else at home all had different sorts of reactions. You felt that moment in whatever way it came out, and so really great historic shot that, like I said, would just live down in the history of college basketball forever.
Yeah, I think what it
yeah,
showed was what pros Rapp and Grant Hill were uh, to the expression. I mean, I don't know if they could speak because they were in such shock, but the fact that they didn't speak shows what pros they were to let Iron Eagle fall, stand, the crowd noise stand, and just the moment to sink in like, I can't believe what I just saw. Sit with it or stand with it, and then they pick it up afterwards. But yeah, it was. I mean, it's one shining moment, right? That's one. You guys aren't old enough for the late shot, but that's you Hunter, you hit the other couple other big ones that have happened in the last couple years for us. But that's the beauty about college basketball in that tournament. It's somebody gets shocked every now and then, and sometimes there's a fantastic finish that sticks with us forever.
this is why I say college basketball is better than the NBA. This is why I say that. Moments like these, you can't beat it.
Well, yeah, I think if it was an NBA playoff game, especially if it was a deciding game. But yeah, there's definitely a different feeling, and there's a different feeling in college basketball now from just a few years ago with the NIL and all that. I mean, Michigan, look at Michigan started 5 guys, none of them started their career at Michigan. But that's the game that's being played now. So you either got to step out and not play, or step in and play the way the game's being played. So, good job by Michigan to go out and get the guys that they needed to get. And just because you go and get 5 good guys who were starters at 5 different schools doesn't mean that, here's the national championship, it's yours.
That's
Right.
real. And to your point about Michigan, they were blowing out their opponents by 15, 20 plus points a game. And I thought Michigan was about to beat them by like 15 plus.
Yeah.
I think that just showed UConn's fight is where, in other games, Michigan kind of stretched those leads out to 11, and then next thing you know, it's up to 18-20. It was in the Arizona game, but UConn was able to fight back and sort of make it a little bit interesting, which I think just continues shows how good of a team UConn was. And yeah, but we saw, I think Dusty May deserves kind of a lot of credit for the talent evaluation and being able to get guys to buy into what he was doing. And it's not easy to get 5 different players to start from all from different schools, from who all had like completely different coaches. And so to be able to bring everyone together like that, it takes a lot of really good coaching. And to your point, Neil, I still remember watching that Gonzaga game earlier in the year and thinking, holy crap, like they just beat Gonzaga by 40, and it wasn't even close. Like I remember it was during like Thanksgiving break, and I remember, okay, we're about to watch Michigan Gonzaga. It's about to be a good game, and it was like Michigan couldn't miss, and that was just foreshadowing of so many other games where it was just every single shot that Michigan took, it felt like it was going in, and then Michigan too, just, they have a great fan base. So even wherever they go, they always have fans, and their fans brought the energy. They brought the energy. At the end of the day, when you combine, kind of everything together, it, results in things that you see, like last night with winning a national championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark Few Mark Few isn't running out the Miro team. He's always got a pretty solid squad. So that was my first indication that Michigan is not just a football school. And how about the Big Ten? Even though I hate to admit that, I hate to say, first of all, it's the Big 18, not the Big Ten. But the Big 18 wins in football, Indiana, men's basketball, Michigan, and women's basketball, UCLA, since they're part of the Big 18 now. No comment from the SEC.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. As a Chicago guy myself, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of all the schools coming in out from the West coming in, but to UCLA women's basketball too, they kind of you know say a little bit polar opposite of the men's team, where you have Mick Cronin complaining about making all these trips out east and these long flights, and then you have UCLA women's basketball and Corey Close, who just continue to win, and they really dominated South Carolina in that national championship game. It was like they couldn't miss either. It was like every time they shot the ball, it was like going in. They were also really one of the most dominant teams all year in women's basketball too. And they've been one of the teams that recently has been able to have success against South Carolina. And so I think it's a good moment for the Big Ten to show that, okay, this expansion thing actually is somewhat working a little bit, to be able to bring a championship to women's basketball, particularly from one of the newer schools who just joined the conference. And so I know the people in the Big Ten office are, definitely pretty excited about that, to see the success they've had in men's and women's basketball, and then, like you said, Neil, in football. So it's a good time to be a member of the Big Ten.
Real. I will say to your point about UCLA, I did not expect them to come out and beat South Carolina the way they did, because we all know how dominant South Carolina is, being coached by Don Staley, arguably one of the greatest coaches.
I think you're getting a little ahead of yourself on that. Pat Summit, Gino Auriemma, even though he did not show his finest side of himself in that South Carolina loss. He was way out of bounds.
Real.
But still, the resume is the resume. But Don Staley is in the conversation. But she's still young, and by the time she's done, she could live up to those words, Kellen.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely, most definitely. If y'all don't got anything else, this has
Well,
been.
fellas, I can cross this off the bucket list. I got on the 2Ballers podcast. I've been waiting since the Heisman ceremony. I'm like, is this kid Kellen ever going to call me up or what? So I'm glad I got to meet you, Hunter. You got some good insight on the college basketball game. You guys, like I told you, Kellen, at the table at the Heisman, dream big. The world's out there for your taking. You guys are young guys. We're counting on you to lead us to greater things in life. So don't let anybody tell you can't, because I'm proof that you can.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
This has been episode 9 of the 2Ballers podcast featuring the great Neil Everett. We thank you so much for joining us today. This has been long in the works. Like you said, it's been since December, so I'm glad we were able to get this done. Thank you.
Not for nothing, but this was the 3Ballers podcast. All right, fellas.
All right. Thank you.